Hello, I'm Barry O'Connell, and this is my Maryland politics review for November 17th. I guess you could have read that, but I feel like I have to say something at the beginning of the whole thing. We're almost up to the holidays. We're past Election Day. I'm glad Angela Also Brooks won. I'm disappointed that Kamala Harris lost. It certainly affects the rest of this broadcast because, particularly, the presidency makes a big difference in Maryland. So, big story. Larry Hogan is running for governor in 26. Um, Forgive me, I AI generated this poster, but I know how to spell governor. AI doesn't. Um, but Hogan comes out of the election thinking, well, his people are spreading the idea that he has a mandate to run for governor in 26. And let me explain the reasoning of his team. When we take a look at Trump versus Harris, we can see that on the western side, um, Harris picked up Frederick County, she picked up Anne Arundel County, and I believe she won Talbot County on the eastern shore, but it's not reflected in this map. Now let's look at also Brooks and Larry Hogan. Now keep in mind, Trump and Harris, Trump lost by 26 points. Over here, Hogan lost by 10 points. He did win Frederick, and he did win Anne Arundel, and he won the whole Eastern Shore. Um, and he sees that as a mandate. A 10-point loss is a mandate to run for governor. That's just the way he thinks. He's a bit of a character. He doesn't feel compelled to tell the truth. He was a lousy governor, and he created the problems that may allow him to win the election. Let me explain how. The budget cuts are coming. I mean, we're down 300 million this year. In the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be down another 2.7. They're talking about close to $6 billion down by 2030. Um, we're in trouble. You know, During the time when Hogan was governor, Maryland didn't grow. Effectively, when you factor in inflation, it shrank. Maryland shrank. All the other states around us, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, even the District of Columbia, were growing by more than 10%. And Maryland grew by less than 3%. Hogan did a lousy job as governor. He wants to claim he lowered taxes. Well, he pulled some real stunts. One of the things he talked about was that he claimed Democrats even tax the rain. Well, he was talking about the so-called rain tax was actually the stormwater runoff tax. He got rid of the stormwater runoff program. He got rid of the tax. He got rid of the program. And almost immediately, Ellicott City flooded twice. People died in those floods. So the floods are stormwater runoff, but he saved that taxes. People died because he saved the taxes. That's the kind of guy Larry Hogan is. I mean, he's willing to tell any exaggeration, spin any story. He took transportation money and he spent it on well, on infrastructure, roads and roads and interchanges and things like that to make his real estate projects worth more. We covered that before, so I won't go into it. But Governor Moore's in a difficult situation. He's got to cut spending. Every time you cut a program, it affects somebody. So that's going to hurt him. There's going to be people out there who deeply resent the tax um, problems we're having. So Moore has got a choice. He's got to cut spending and he's got to increase taxes. It doesn't look like there's any other way. So at that point, Larry Hogan's going to come out. He's not going to admit that he caused the problem. He's going to come out and say that more raised taxes and more cut spending and more cut essential programs and more hurt people, and it's going to be ugly. Now, fortunately, Wes Moore is a charismatic leader who shows his care for the people. He's still going to have a tough time. Hogan has a serious chance. Now let's get off of that unpleasant subject, talk about other things. Um, I have a bad sense of humor. I thought sex change in Baltimore County, was funny. CEX, county executive, but really, let's talk a little bit about the situation. Um, Johnny O won the congressional seat easily. He beat Kimberly Klacik, who never even seriously tried to win, as far as I could tell. She was just a mess. Um, her campaign never really got off the ground, far worse than when she ran before. Uh, so Johnny's leaving. January 3rd, he's sworn in Congress. He's got to give up his seat as county executive. The problem is, when he gives up that seat, his replacement is going to be chosen by Baltimore County Council. There's 7 members, 4 Democrats, 3 Republicans. 3 of the Democrats on council want to be county executive. Um, the leader in the whole thing, best situated, as far as I could tell, has raised the most money, has done the most work. Um, Julian Jones. Julian's been um, council president, I think, 4 times, at least 3 times, maybe 4 times. Izzy's finishing up his first time as council president. Pat Young, who also wants to be county executive. The 3 of them, Julian, Izzy Patoka, and Pat Young, all want to be county executive. Pat's never been even council chair, or whatever it is, president. Forgive me, it's a long day. Um, so it looks like what they're going to do is what they did last time this happened. Um, Kevin Kamenetz was county executive running for governor. It looked like he had the whole thing locked up. I mean, I talked to him the week before he died, and uh, came away, feeling that he was the only one who could win. And so I threw in on his campaign and was supporting him. And then I guess he had chest pains, woke up in the middle of the night. His wife took him down to the fire station, and he died. Um, It's a shame because he would have made a great governor in 2018. He would have beat Larry Hogan. Um, but at that point, one of his chief aides was Don Moeller. Don did a great job. I mean, he really did everything you could ask for in a placeholder county executive. He served for 2 years. Um, he did everything that needed to be done. At the end of the 2 years, he did not run for reelection, and he handed it over. And then they had a wild primary where 3 main candidates almost tied each other. Johnny O only won the county executive seat by like less than 100 votes. Um, it was a tough race. Anyway, this time they want to do the same thing. They're looking for a placeholder. But what happens if somebody gets the spot as placeholder, um, and then decides to run for reelection? They've got a definite advantage. Um, so right now, the most likely person appears to be Senator Kathy Klossmeyer, state senator, District 8. She's on the uh, northeast edge of Baltimore City, right up where Baltimore um, comes to a corner in District 8. That's Kathy's district. You know, she's got a lot of people pushing for her. One of the loudest voices is Klimis Kakis. Um, Klim knows her well. Klim is assuring everybody that she's the perfect choice, and I think she'd be a real good choice. I'm hearing she's likely to get it. So that's what's happening in Baltimore County. Let's talk about Prince George's County. There's a lot of people, or at least some loud voices, who want Angela Alsobrooks to resign before December 3rd. See, she was sworn in December 3rd, almost 4 years ago, almost 2 years ago. I'm sorry, that's the key point, 2 years. If she resigns on or before December 3rd, there will be a special election. Special election would favor some of the candidates. Um, but if she holds off until after December 3rd, uh, then it's chosen by council. Keep in mind, um, she would have to resign by December 3rd. She doesn't get sworn in. And keep in mind, she doesn't get a paycheck. Um, she won't be, she'd be unemployed for a month. Well, she's a mom. She's a working mother with a daughter in college. I would be surprised if she um, resigned by December 3rd. It just doesn't make sense. Why would you give up a month's pay, which would benefit people that have never been friends of hers? And that's part of what this comes down to. She has her own opinions on what she's going to do and who she's going to support, but I'd be surprised if she resigns before December 3rd. Um, And then it's going to be a wild race. Rushern Baker is a leading candidate. He was a very successful county executive before Angela. Um, he helped clean up the county after Jack Johnson went to prison. Um, Honest, decent, hardworking guy. Um, but there's other people. There's talk about Jolene Ivy running for county executive. She's an incredibly popular politician, and she's probably one of the smartest politicians in the county. Aisha Braveboy is being talked about for county executive. One of the problems with Aisha is that, she got to be state's attorney for Prince George's County. Almost a million people. She's never tried a case. She's a HOA attorney. So, if you get cited by your HOA for grass that's too high you you didn't take your Christmas decorations down in time, you could go to her and she could plead the case, but she's not a trial lawyer. She doesn't have a lot of experience. She's an HOA attorney, and that's kind of a weird little sideline field for a lawyer. Anyway, um, Calvin Hawkins is another person. Um, Calvin's got an interesting backstory. Um, He was a bit of a thug when he was young. He got arrested for robbing a place at gunpoint. He did his time in jail. He came out. He went to work for um, Prince George's County. He got in a scrape over a woman, but that whole thing got settled. And then he settled down, and he's done his job as a um, county councilman and councilman at large. I mean, he's a popular guy. And, he's a little bit theatric. He's got the Hawkmobile, which is a trailer which he rides around in playing music and having a party, and it's great for his campaign. Anyway, that's where we are on Prince George's County. Let's talk about over in Anne Arundel County, District 30. Sarah, or as a lot of people call her, Selfish Sarah Elfreth, um, was the state senator. She's got to give up her seat. She gets sworn in January 3rd. She's announced that she's going to resign her Senate seat January 3rd so she can be sworn in for Congress. Um, she's a continuation of the ugly days of Anne Arundel County politics. She was mentored by Mike Bush, and Mike Bush was a dirty speaker. You could tell how honest a speaker is by how much corruption he allows around him. During the time when Mike Bush was Speaker, 11 delegates went to prison, arrested, convicted, and prison. That's the kind of man Mike Bush was. Anything goes. There were people who, the law says you have to live in your district. Mike didn't care about that. He never cracked down on anybody. There was a delegate from Howard County who had moved to California years before and continued to serve. She'd just come back for the session, the 90-day session, and then she'd spend the rest of the year in California. Or Maggie McIntosh, who ran for speaker. Can you believe Maggie McIntosh moved to Delaware and kept serving? And under Mike Bush, she could get away with that because that's the way Mike Bush was. Um, Speaker Jones came in and she took all those people aside and she told them, "You're done." you're not running for reelection, and if you try to, I will bring you up on charges for not living in your district. And one of the things to keep in mind is Mike averaged one person going to prison more once every 2 years. It was actually a little bit less than that. Um, Once every 2 years. Since Speaker Jones has become Speaker, nobody's gone to jail. Nobody's been indicted. Nobody's gone to prison. Um, a Republican, that guy with the drinking problem. But you really can't blame him on the Speaker. He was a holdover from the Mike Bush days, and he just a troubled soul. Um, no Democrat has been arrested, convicted, and sent to prison since the Speaker went in. But Selfish Sarah is part of that old tradition. She's used to doing things the dirty way. She doesn't care about what's right or wrong. She cares about what's good for Sarah. That's the kind of person she is. So, what does this have to do with her giving up her seat? Well, she's pushing for Shanika Henson to take that seat. And we need to shine the light of day on that dirty deal because Shanika Henson got caught in a big ethics jam this year. Um, she slid through a bill without telling anybody on her committee the ramifications of it, and then through the House, and she got a church that she was connected with $1.5 million, and it was unethical, and it was immoral, and it was improper, and it was crooked. And she lost her seat on her committee, and the speaker could have brought her up on, um, um, could have brought her up before the whole Maryland General Assembly and got her kicked out. Um, she didn't. Uh, but why is Sarah Elfreth pushing a candidate to replace her in the state senate that has serious problems with ethics? That's the kind of person Selfish Sarah is. Now let's talk a little bit about Prince George's County. The state treasurer, God bless him, Derek Davis. I love that guy. He is so honest and decent and hardworking, and he's not scared of anybody. You know, um, he's been a major player on the Board of Public Works, keeping that honest. Because you have to understand, the governor does the budget. The Maryland General Assembly passes the budget with whatever ways they change it. Then it goes and the Board of Public Works actually assigns the contracts out. So if they don't like who's supposed to get a contract, they can change that. They keep the whole process honest. That's his role, keeping things honest. And the state treasurer is a master at that. Um, but he just had a fundraiser last week, and I got to chuckle a little bit about it. I find it funny. Not everybody did, but you know, he's appointed to office, so he doesn't need campaign money because he's appointed. And he just had his second fundraiser of 2024. So people are going nuts figuring if he's having fundraisers, he's running for something. So he gets a good turnout because he's a popular guy. He's well respected across the state. I mean, he even had Republicans giving him contributions and going to his event. I mean, he's just people on both sides respect him because of his honesty. And so anyway, Rusher and Baker shows up at the event, and at that point, Treasurer Davis decides to give his speech. And so he gets up front and he starts talking about Prince George's County in a way that makes everybody in the room thinks he's announcing he's running for county executive. And of course, Baker is a candidate, or I don't not sure if he's officially announced it yet, but he's running for county executive. And so um, just as he's about to announce that he's running for county executive, Davis flips the whole thing and starts to laugh and says, You'd have to be crazy to run for county executive." And he announced that he's not running. So he's not running. Some people thought this was a slam against Baker. I think that was a misinterpretation. Going back to the budget crisis, um, Prince George's County has got a bigger budget crisis than any other county in the state because years back they passed um, an amendment to the saying that you can't raise taxes. You can't raise taxes at all in Prince George's County. So they're stuck. They have a finite amount of money. They haven't grown as much as they could have. They don't have the extensive office parks of um, of other places, and it's a problem for them. Plus, they can't count on the state because the state's broke, and they can't count on the federal government with Trump coming in. It doesn't look like they're going to get anything. I don't think it was a slam on Baker. I think it was a slam on the situation. You'd have to be crazy to run for county executive. But thank goodness some good people are willing to run. Um, Baker's one of them. Jolene Ivy's name gets mentioned quite frequently. The HOA attorney, Aisha Braveboy, she really wants that job. She's always been so jealous of Angela Also Brooks that she'd do anything to get the job that Angela had. I mean, that's just who she is. And of course, Calvin Hawkins, um, God bless Calvin. Um, he came up rough. You know, he got in trouble. He ended up sticking up a place with a gun. He went to prison. He served his time. He got out. He got a job with the county. Then there was some sort of scrape with a woman. Worked the whole thing out, and he settled down. And he's been a pretty good county councilman, and then county councilman at large. And he's running. So, we've got some worthy candidates and, maybe an unworthy candidate or two, but we've got some good people who are looking to run. Um, so that's where we are in Prince George's County. Let's talk briefly about Martin O'Malley. God bless him. I love Martin O'Malley. I mean, I think of him almost like family. Um, he was a great Baltimore city councilman, Baltimore mayor, Maryland governor, and now commissioner of the Social Security Administration, meaning he's the boss of the whole Social Security Administration for the whole country. Um, he's a fact driven, statistics driven sort of an administrator when he's serving in whatever he's doing. When he was mayor of Baltimore, he came up with a methodology called CityStat, which would allow anybody in the city to find out where the roads are closed, where the potholes are, where the schedule for road repair or traffic light replacement or anything. I mean, if you wanted to know about Baltimore city government, you could look it up on CityStat. And then when he became governor, StateStat would allow anybody to go look and see what we're doing and what's happening. It's still in use in some places, like Prince George's County uses County Stat, which is based on the O'Malley methodology. Um, I think we would do well with some new version of DNC stat because it would be nice to see what we're doing, where we're working, how we're doing it, what sort of goals are we hitting. If we're doing voter registration, where are we doing the voter registration? How many people are we registering? And that's the sort of way that Martin O'Malley sets these things up. We'd have access to the information describing what's actually going on, and we don't have to wait until election day to see if we won or lost. We would know in advance what's working and what isn't working. And that's why I think he'd be an extremely valuable addition as DNC chair. And that's it for this broadcast. I want to thank my friends at Jimmy's Famous Seafood and my good friend Clem Kakis for all his help. And unless something interesting happens, I'll be back next Sunday. And thank you very much.